He's a deeper character than most people realize. Yes, he's brave. Yes, he's great with women, but he's also scared of snakes. 1 year after Xbox debuted its Developer Direct showcase, they have returned with another serving of the exact same thing. Now, I think the whiteboard aesthetic works conceptually and visually. Can't really criticize them for reusing that, but it is insane that they have reused the identical music track they began with last year. But here's the thing tonight. I don't want to be needlessly negative. I think the Developer Direct format is maybe one of my favorite ways to do one of these kinds of things. And as I kind of touched on at the end of last year, it does feel now especially cruel to criticize any video games when it seems like everyone's jobs are constantly on the line. So let's just organize it like this. Everyone did a good job. Good job, everyone in the Developer Direct. But who did the best good job and who did the worst good job? Worst good job, Avowed. So imagine this. Imagine a first-person fantasy RPG. Like, it's easy to imagine, right? Because there's a standard. So if you're something like Avowed, how do you stand out from that standard? One thing, I think they did a nice job explaining and demonstrating Avowed's dual wielding mechanic, right? Like you can have 2 guns or a magic wand that freezes your enemies so that you can sword it. So that's the good job part. It felt like for the rest of the presentation, they would be describing something about the game and then showing something else entirely. Here's our setup. Our game has morally gray choices. How does Obsidian demonstrate that? So there's this dying guy who gives you his badge, and then also all the badges of the other dead guys he was working with. And they show presumably a party member here? This is the only time we see this character, who appears to be a main character, but nothing more is said about this. And then you run into this other guy who works with them but isn't dead. Anyway, you choose to believe that guy and you hand him all those badges. But also, listen, there was another choice there.
But if you confront him, if you believe that he fled the site of the battle as an act of cowardice, then he might challenge you to a fight to reclaim his honor. Either way, when you return to town, you'll see the consequences of your actions and the choices you made during this quest.
And the reason I run down that whole thing, which went for too long in the direct and also is going for too long in this video, is that it is so uninteresting. Why would anyone presume that anyone just watching this thing would give a shit about any part of this scenario? Baldur's Gate 3 is out. We're tainted with the dark knowledge of what an interesting quest line looks like. We know what engaging choices are now. This, your solitary example of what difficult choices and consequences look like, is not that. Avowed. You better get yourself a seeped pronto. I will say, very nice key art though. Second worst good job. Hellblade 2. Senua's Saga. So Hellblade is a franchise built around a person who deals with psychosis, right? And I guess I had a prevailing fear that once it became an Xbox franchise, that maybe they were marketing it as this big, broad, AAA console seller, which it is not. But it seemed like maybe they were advertising it that way. It came out after the show that the game will cost $50 US, and it will be about as long as the first game, which was not too long. And I think those are good things. I think that's good news that for some reason was not part of this Developer Direct. However, I do still feel disappointed in maybe what has not been shown from this game. Hellblade 2's second trailer from 2021 showed something cool and new and immediately appealing to anyone. This giant fight. And then everything since then has been significantly less exciting. Like this game actually looks torturous to witness. But at the very least, it was clear today that they're not propping up this game as Xbox's answer to God of War, right? It looks like the Microsoft marketing team will allow Hellblade to just be Hellblade. Medium good job. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I've previously established not too long ago that I have zero reverence for Indiana Jones. Canonically, he likes to date underage girls. Like, this guy sucks. I'm just not the kind of person who admires this character as intensely as this woman does.
Indiana Jones is such an iconic character, and he means so much to so many people.
I think what is surprising here is that there are so many ways this game could have looked bad, and it doesn't. The Harrison Ford likeness could have looked bad. The game could have looked bad. None of it looks bad, right? But at the same time, none of it looks like anything outside of what you've already seen in the movies. And I think that's deliberate. Dial of Destiny is a mega bomb. Yep, don't even worry about that. This isn't that. This is classic indie. Classic indie villain. Classic indie love interest. Classic indie locales. Trust us, gamers, absolutely nothing that would surprise you. And it seems like this is being generally well received because that's what Indiana Jones fans want at this point. Please, please don't surprise us. And here's what's weird to me. Todd Howard, executive producer and Hall of Fame game designer, says he was looking for a studio who could execute his idea for an Indiana Jones game. And after watching this whole thing, I'm kind of left wondering, what was the idea, Todd? What's the idea?
I had this idea for what it would be like.
Cinematic action-adventure game.
And the story.
Sinister forces are scouring the globe for the secret to an ancient power connected to the Great Circle, and only one person can stop them. Indiana Jones.
What Indy was going after.
The Great Circle.
What period of his life it was in.
Right in between two of the movies people liked.
What kind of arc he was going to have.
None. Kind of similar issue I had with the Avowed presentation. We're told Indy is clever and witty and has creative solutions to problems, but we never see it.
Observing enemy patrols and using them to your advantage.
Yeah, observing enemy patrols and using them to your advantage is not wit. It's a regular old stealth mechanic. It's how you get in the castle in Ocarina of Time. But alright, let's see it in action. Let's watch Indy solve a puzzle. Here he's got this rudimentary ancient stone puzzle. I bet he really thinks outside of the box here. Oh, okay. Let me be clear, these are not criticisms for the final game. It could have unexpected characters in unexpected locations doing unexpected things, but today Xbox didn't feel the need to show any of that. They expect you to see a first-person weapon and feel excited. And, to be fair, for many people that seems to have worked. Indy looks much better than the last two movies. Good old Indiana Jones action. Good job. Second best good job. Visions of Mana. First off, I actually don't think this game should have been included in the developer direct, whose spirit seems to be about humanizing these creative teams that work for the mega corporation known as Microsoft. So including Visions of Mana as a surprise even definitely feels like a public statement. Feels like posting your engagement photos on Instagram. Look at us, please. We are in a relationship with Square Enix. I guess important context here being that the most anticipated title of the first half of 2024 is releasing next month exclusively on the PlayStation 5, that being Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that being a game published by Square Enix. It feels like that is the reason why Visions of Mana was even invited, instead of more teams of people who are working on first-party titles at Microsoft. All that said, I do think this was a nice demonstration of the game. There's like historical context of the franchise itself. And I think we're all walking away from this with a stronger understanding of Visions of Mana than we had from the Game Awards reveal trailer. So even if the purpose of this game's inclusion was to say, don't worry, Xbox faithful, we got something just as good as Final Fantasy VII, even if that's the reason it was here, it was still really nice to see. And finally, best good job goes to Aura History Untold. Look, I don't like this kind of game. Look how much thinking you have to do here. And they say, here's our HUD. Here's what the game looks like. Look how tiny our icons are. We're just being honest here. This is what the game looks like. It's not a game for simple people, okay? And unlike those other issues I was having with those other games, it seemed like every point the speakers brought up was illustrated with accompanying footage. Here's how this is similar to Civilization. Here's how it is different. And one of my favorite moments from this whole thing, and what I think is truly special about the potential of this format, is when they showed this early footage of something that wasn't quite working and they learned from it. And yeah, that rare, candid, genuine moment was immediately undermined by this heavily coached montage.
Cougars! Cougars!
Cougars! I hate cougars!
Someone get these feline demons away from me.
But still, it is cool to see actual, real, behind-the-scenes insight in a developer direct. So overall, this continues to be the best show Xbox puts out. Obviously, there wasn't anything as cool as a Hi-Fi Rush Shadow Drop this year, but I did at least get to see some concept art of robots. And so I think it's pretty obvious we're probably all thinking the same score here. It's a C. No better or worse than what they did last year, and honestly, clearly no attempt to do otherwise. And that is delayed input for this week. Thanks for watching. Alright, so it's after the credits. I'm going to be a little more negative now. Let's let it all hang loose. It's grimy-timey. A disappointing thing about the developer direct to me is the potential, right? The potential is, the promise is, here are developers talking to you into the camera about the game they are designing. None of this scripted, marketing-approved, sanitized, bleached BS, right? True talk. When, like, clearly it's not that. Clearly they're just saying stuff like this.
Our mission here at Ninja Theory is to craft life-changing art with game-changing tech.
Forgive me for being incredulous here, but I don't feel like that person truly thought of that phrase in that moment. And yeah, there's like these honest, like blooper-ish things that happen that keep it sort of sincere, but then there's also this level of rehearsedness. I feel like I'm some Canadian mother with this detached teenage son, and I'm just like, talk to me. Talk to me.
Why won't you talk to me?
I think the most egregious thing said out loud in the entire event is this.
In this game, you aren't just playing as Indy, you are Indiana Jones.
He said, you don't just play as Indiana Jones, you are Indiana Jones. It's a line so good they had to put it in the tweet. And I'm thinking, what is the distinction? What's the difference? What's the difference there? And yeah, to be fair, there's been campaigns before that are like, be the Batman, be Spider-Man. Here, there's almost saying we're more than that. We're going deeper than that. What do they think they showed today that makes this a deeper embodiment of being a video game character than any other video game? Like, what are you talking? This isn't VR chat, right? I'm not being Indiana Jones. Troy Baker's the voice. It's not my voice. I'm not writing any of this dialogue. And then when I say that out loud, I realize, once again, I'm quibbling. I'm looking at the words and not their meaning, and I'm being closed-minded, and I'm failing to see what is actually exciting about this. Actually think about it. Because when they say you are Indiana Jones, that means you leave yourself at the door. This is the future of gaming. When I'm touching that controller, Kylo's gone. Call me Indy. I get to be the witty one now. I am young. I am smart. I can jump from plane to plane. I get the kisses. I am everything inside of you that you wish you could be. I say all the right things at exactly the right time. I am Indiana fucking Jones.